Hello, my Crystal Loves Texas podcast family. We are in the studio this Saturday morning, and I have had a lesson. I had a master teacher come in and tell me that I needed a lesson. I needed a private lesson in how to set up my podcast so that it is going to present as well as it can. We have been here since about 10:15, and she has been showing me lighting and all different kinds of stuff. So she said, so I will not be so kindergarten in doing things, but welcome Michelle Williams to the podcast. And Michelle, thank you so much for driving from home to help me set up. She told me this about 2 weeks ago. She said, look, while you're off from work, I'm going to come over to that studio and I'm going to show you how to set up this podcast. And she said, your audio is crap. That's exactly what she said. Is that not what you? Oh, look, she's blushing now. That's exactly what she told me. She said, your audio is crap. The video part, it looks okay, but the audio is horrible. It sounds like you all are yelling down a tunnel. So she said, I need to see what you're doing. So she came over and she actually, I'm not on my iPhone today.
Look, somebody put a light.
I'm not filming with my iPhone. We bought this 4K camera about a year ago, and I couldn't figure out how to work it. So Michelle said, go ahead and dig it out of that bucket or whatever it is in there. So I went and dug it out, and she set it up, and we figured out how to work it. So we're on an actual 4K camera. We're not on the laptop, and we're not on the iPhone. And I'm hoping that when we play this back, Michelle, our audio sounds not like we're yelling down a tunnel. But she made sure that she pointed us in the right direction so that we can have some decent audio now. And with all that being said, Michelle, I had to get you in here. I'm going to hide this vertical aspect, and I had to get you in here because we got a lot of stuff to unpack about some of the things that are still going on. It's like some things never go away.
They don't. They recycle.
And the thing about it is, I've heard a lot of, almost everyone in the respective races that we're in, they say that they're the education candidates, but we're the ones who actually been in the classroom in a minute. And with that in mind, how have you seen? You've been in education, let me get it right, 27 years?
26.
26 years. You've been in education 26 years. You've seen a whole lot change. And correct me if I'm wrong, we're looking at things change real time right now.
Correct.
How have you seen the way that children are prioritized in the classroom change, and not necessarily for the better, just in the last 5 years?
So
where do you start?
Yeah, because I've seen the change happen gradually over time.
Yeah.
I guess it was around my 9th or 10th year of teaching when I really realized that we were stuck in this perpetual state of testing. So Then I ended up leaving. I went to Louisiana, played around with That's when Hurricane Katrina had come through. Yeah. So I left. I was so sick of testing to the point where I started having anxiety.
Yeah.
And I got sick of being stuck in a classroom with kids.
And the thing about it is, if you think we as adults have anxiety, how must the kids feel? Because they're the ones who actually get the mark on the paper.
Yeah.
Saying that, and here's the thing. To have a student that I know knows and understands the information, that we've talked about. I know that they know it because they can tell it back to me.
Mhm.
Okay. Now I'm a history teacher, you're a math
Mhm.
teacher, but I know that they understand the concepts,
Mhm.
but they can't necessarily translate that onto a test. So at the end of the day, they're sitting in a position of failure.
We just
It's a horrible situation to put a kid in.
we don't have the time we need to teach, and we're not talking about time for testing. We're talking about time to actually teach the concepts.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't agree with testing. I do think there has to be a level of accountability, but teachers literally do not have any time to teach.
Yeah.
And then in the day and age of scripted curriculum, it's horrible. Like I'm in a group with this blue bonnet learning, and I did a Eureka Math, and I'm like, the sink or swim situation they have these teachers in,
It's ridiculous.
it's ridiculous. It's more about, are you following this certain set of politics? And politics, school, public education is political. It's
Is
political educationally. But now we have politicians sticking their noses
into the curriculum.
in curriculum, and they're pitting teachers, are attempting to pit teachers against parents. Parents are our partners, and I want
Right.
people to understand that. I don't want parents to ever feel like teachers are trying to usurp their authority,
Exactly.
because we're not.
Yeah.
That's politicians and their talking points, but
Right.
it has nothing to do with teachers. We respect that parent child relationship.
Yeah.
And we wish we had more of it.
Absolutely.
But we don't.
Absolutely.
So that is politicians trying to pit us against one another. And it's just talking points and propaganda at this point.
You know, and there's nothing wrong with, I think that politicians, I think that the public in general should definitely weigh in on what's going on in the classrooms. And I'm going to say this, that's my camera right there. I got to make sure. See, Michelle's got me technically right now. So I got to try to figure it out. So I'm looking right here. But I wish that everyone who held an elected position would sign up on that substitute registry and go in there at least 2 times a semester. You get to see exactly what we see on a daily basis. Okay. Mm-hmm. You can see exactly what the curriculum is like. You can see exactly how that plays out in the classroom. You can see the things that go on before we even get to the curriculum. And, these are the things that teachers, and not just teachers, but students are up against. So that's why, I've been saying it's very important to have a teacher at the table when we're making this policy.
Yeah.
For students, when we're laying out this policy, it's almost being presented in a way where we think it is going to be a utopian situation in that classroom, and everything is going to go exactly the same way every day. Does that ever happen?
Never.
How long, even as a teacher with very good structure in the classroom, it may, depending on what's going on, it may take me 10 minutes to get started.
Yeah.
Because you got to take your attendance. Then you got to, now, God forbid, a kid run in there from the office with something that says, okay, pass this out to all the kids right now, let them fill it out. And then I'm going to come back by in 10 minutes to pick it up. You got to stop what you're doing, get the kids to do it, and then have them. Then you got to go ahead and start what you're doing. So, your day is never going to be the same. And I sit in a classroom in a district that's the most diverse district probably in Texas, with Fort Bend. Okay. Mm-hmm. We've got a huge South Asian population.
Oh, wow.
Oh, absolutely. We've got the API, Asian Pacific Islanders. We've got African Americans. We've got people from Africa. So we're talking about the different languages and different cultures that are coming to the table. I've got people who are from the Saudi Arabian countries, mm-hmm. people of the Muslim faith. All kinds of students sit in my classroom. And Michelle, as a teacher, I'm going to tell you, it bugs the heck out of me to think that I have got to my sister's calling me right now and she knows I'm down here on podcast, so she's got to wait. But I have got to I'm thinking right now, if this 10 commandments in the classroom thing goes through, how many people I'm going to, first of all, with me being a history teacher, we're going to have a discussion about it. There's going to be a discussion in my class about this. I'm a history teacher. Okay. So when the kids who are the kids of the Buddhist faith begin to ask me about this, or Miss Dillard, if I go home, can I bring my Buddhist tenets up so that you can put them up too? What am I going to tell them, Michelle? Or if the Muslim students go home and say, well, if that's up, can I bring the ones from my house that my mom says that we have to adhere to? Can I put those up in the classroom too? What am I going to tell them, Michelle?
You're going to say yes. 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 Bring them all. Come one, come all. Because if we're going to break the law, then we're just going to put everything on the wall.
That's right. And then let the cards fall where they may.
Yes, because that's what's happening. There should be a separation of church and state.
Absolutely.
And honestly, I don't want people teaching my grandson anything that I wouldn't teach him.
That's right. Or teaching. And here's the thing Rebecca brought up the first time that we talked about this bluebonnet. She brought up a really good point. She said, well, first of all, I'm going to tell you that I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian person too. But she said, how can I ensure that whoever is going to be teaching this, if they have a disdain for what they're teaching, how am I going to ensure that they're teaching it not in a condescending way, not in a way that's a disrespectful way to, how do I know they're going to be teaching it the way that I would teach it at home? Mm-hmm. So if you've got someone who's agnostic, if you have someone who's atheist, and they're teaching from bluebonnet, think about it. Yeah. When you just put this out here as a blanket methodology that everyone is supposed to follow. First of all, you can't watch everybody. What are you going to do? Put a camera in every room?
We don't have enough teachers as it is.
Exactly. And so basically what's happening is that we're alienating even more people from wanting to be in the classroom. And I got, at the beginning of last summer, before we came back to school, I got an addendum to our curriculum. And this is simply what it said. I wish I brought it because I would like to read it. It said, I teach in a adjacent school district to Houston. And it said, what's been handed down by state law is that if a teacher finds any of the content that's presented in their curriculum offensive, they don't have to teach it. That's exactly what it said. If a teacher finds any of the content, and it was meant to address the teaching of slavery, the teaching of chattel slavery in our society, that if they find it offensive, they don't have to teach it. So, Michelle, let me think. If I find the teaching of the pilgrims coming, no. How about the teaching of people being in the colonial days when the pilgrims first got here? If I found that women being emblazoned with a scarlet letter because they were believed to be an adulterer, if I find that to be offensive, I don't have to teach it. If I find anything that Roger Williams, pilgrims, and if I find any of that offensive, I don't have to teach it. So where are you going to draw the line? Do you see where that's a bad place to open?
First of all, it's unlawful.
It is.
And if you're a teacher watching this, and I want to tell you, don't listen to the state of Texas. You're going to find yourself in a world of trouble because the Texas Education Code, which you are held to,
right,
which is one of the statute states that we have to follow all state mandated federal,
Yeah.
board policy, all of those. So if you're a
Right.
teacher watching this, don't listen to the state,
Yeah.
because again, that's propaganda and nobody's going to come and save you. By law, we are required to teach our required curriculum.
Yes.
Nowhere does it say in the education code that you can skip over the required curriculum. So you can believe what you want to believe, but when you are on the hot seat
Yeah.
for not teaching this or not teaching that, you're going to have a real problem and you're going to have legal issues.
And Michelle, here's the thing. I've been teaching history for a long time, okay? And here's my thing. Nobody is walking through this world in rose-colored glasses.
No.
How long have we been teaching history and people have taken it, absorbed it, made their own decision, and continued on with life? Okay? How long has that happened? Okay? We lay it out there and teach it, and you decide for yourself if it's something that was a good thing or something that needed to be changed and we need to learn from and go forward. That's part of critical thinking that we teach children.
Well, it's not intelligent to say that your history doesn't have an effect on what's happening today.
And that can have low points.
Right, but
Yeah.
it's true with everybody. It's true with the Latinos. It's true with Asian Americans. It's true with all of them. Your history. I can remember
Yes.
when I started in HISD, Asians didn't even have their own demographic. A lot of people don't know this.
Yeah.
But those high scores were Asians boosting Caucasian scores because Asians were counted as white.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't even know that these people did not have their own demographic. And I started teaching in 99. It wasn't until early 2000
Right.
that Asians were identified in their own demographic for
Right.
a long time. Even with Latinos, one of the LULAC presidents was telling me she was part of the integration in Harris County, but Houston ISD did not want to integrate.
Right.
So what they did is label the Latino children as white and force them into Black schools.
Wow.
That's what happened.
Wow.
She told
Was this
me
in
that.
the 70s?
Yes, when
Wow.
they started integration.
Yeah. Minority to majority integration.
Yep.
Yeah. I remember having to go to a school. I lived 3 blocks from an elementary school. And as a third grader, I remember having to be bused in the 4th grade, way across, probably 15, 20 minutes from my house to go to school every day. And the thing about it is now here's the kicker on that. By the time that everything happened, from the time that this was legislated till the time that it happened, all of the Caucasian families in the school district that we were being bused to, they had moved out. They moved out. And so we were getting bused to a school where there were other African American kids, and I could have been going to the school down the street. Mm-hmm. And, my point is this, ladies and gentlemen. In our history, in the history of America, there are going to be some points and places that are low, that nobody is necessarily proud of. But as a country, we take those and we move forward with those, and we learn from those as to not repeat them again.
Right.
We don't try to pretend that they didn't happen. There is no one sitting in a classroom right now. There's no one sitting on the face of the earth right now that I blame for anything that happened 400 years ago. Michelle.
Oh, and when these things come, when these talking points, it's propaganda. It's that's what makes it political,
right?
Because it's propaganda. Nobody's saying that you should feel sorry or like JD Vance said, apologizing for being white. Nobody is saying that. What we're
For what?
saying
No.
is that the United States needs to make amends with its dark past.
With
And
itself.
that's it.
With
And right.
itself. Yes.
And that's all we're saying. Things there are of people, there are consequences, and people are affected. Whole generations are continuously affected by what's taking place. Again, it's not just Black people,
Right.
it's Asians, it's Latinos, Guatemalans, El Salvadorians,
People from Mexico.
yes,
Yeah.
they need to make amends, and we're saying
And by making amends, okay, and that's what you're saying.
Acknowledge that
things
it
occurred.
happened.
Yeah.
And acknowledge that instead they're trying to cover it up as if United States is perfect. First of all, the United States was never a Christian nation.
Right.
Because the Native Americans were here first.
That's right.
And I don't believe Christianity was there because they knew nothing about it.
And Michelle, let's get this straight. Even when places like Maryland were established, the state of Maryland, when it was established as a place for the Catholic people to be able to worship freely. However, there were people of all different faiths were allowed in Maryland.
Yeah.
Okay. Jewish people. Chaim Solomon was one of the people who helped to fund the American Revolution. He was a Jewish gentleman. So we have been accepting of all religions and not trying to mandate that everyone think like us since the onset of this country, since this country was founded. That's just the truth. And there are people, and there have been people, Michelle, there were even people who fought in the American Revolution who were, go do your research this, who were of the LGBTQIA.
Yeah, they
yeah.
That's the crazy thing about it. They were in the Bible. And I just believe, and this is my belief, we had a conversation, I think when I was doing poll greeting during the HISD election, we had a conversation about the difference between Republicans and Democrats. I said, we're not in people's personal lives. Whether a person is part of the LGBTQIA plus community, that's between them and their maker.
That's right.
And that's my thing. Like, stay out of people's personal lives. The United States is not perfect. They hide a lot of things, and we know that a lot of it's. Why do you think the download book exists? Because we know that people are living these lifestyles on the download. So however you choose to live your life, that's between you and your maker.
And let me ask you something. Who would you rather have living next door to you? Someone who is constantly feeling that they are above you in some way, someone who's constantly calling out differences in themselves and their neighbors, someone who's constantly pointing to the fact that I know that all people who look like this are this way and all people who do this are this way, or the LGBTQIA couple next door who comes in, they keep their yard nice, they have their dog on a leash, they pick up their paper out of their yard when there were papers, and they go inside, they close their door, they shut their window so everybody doesn't see what's going on in their house like some people won't, and they live their life. Okay. Or the nosy neighbor next door who's always trying to figure out who that is coming to your house if it's 2:00 in the morning. It's not their business.
Right.
I would rather have, on any day and time, the second couple. I would say, well, these are the people that I'd leave my key with if I were going out of town and say, listen, can you come over and can I pay you a little bit to feed my dog or feed my cat? And you understand what I'm saying? Right. I don't care what people do when I got to keep remembering to look at this camera. I don't care what people do when they go in their homes and close their doors, as long as they are a good neighbor. Watch my house when I'm gone for me, please. If you'll feed my dog or feed my cat and pick up my mail, I'll love you forever. What you do when you go in that house and close your door, who visits you, or what time they're visiting is not my business. It's not. I'm going to honestly tell you, I think that people who are so hyper fixated on what other people are doing, they probably need to be evaluated.
It's a problem. And I feel like for teachers, they're trying to force us into discriminating against people.
Yeah,
First of all, that's not my nature. That's not
me
who
either.
I am.
That's right.
And I'm not going to treat people differently because they chose a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
I don't have, and I keep telling people there's no heaven or hell
For you to put. That's right.
I'm not their maker.
Yep.
So as long as they treat me like a human being
with kindness and respect,
yes.
That's all.
And I don't have any problem with people making decisions for themselves. I don't have a problem with women making decisions for themselves because, you know, taking into account people's right, like abortion. And people say, well, you're a Christian. I'm a believer.
Yeah.
But I believe that we have the right to choose. And I don't feel like any part of the government should be in a person's personal life. What you do with your life and what you do with your children, long as you're not out here asking for things, that is your right to rear your kids the way you want to. Now, when it comes to vouchers, but you don't have the right to ask the government to pay for your religious schooling for your student,
absolutely,
for your child. I don't agree with any of that. And I think the separation of church and state needs to be stronger because, like I said, I don't want anyone teaching my grandson something that we do not agree with.
Michelle, how do we get out to our message? Is basically the same message as classroom teachers, as people who've been within the classroom within the last 6 months. Okay. How do we get out to the general public who honestly, unless they are extremely informed, they don't really know a lot of what's going on. Okay. With the state board and how those decisions are being made there and how a governor can actually take an entity created to be a safeguard for the learning of children and use it as a puppet tool for their own agenda? Is it because of from the top going all the way down to a local level that HISD is now under state control?
I think everything is by design. So you have parents that are trying to survive every day.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to serve as Santa's elf over at Light of the World, where they were giving out gifts to
I
parents.
was an elf too at Holiday in the Tray.
Yeah.
We should have taken pictures in our elf costumes. Yes.
So you to see men coming in and shopping for their children.
Yeah.
Like we're in a bad state. We really are. When mayonnaise costs $5.
Yeah.
I've never. Yeah. And I live by myself. It's me and my puppy.
Yeah.
And mayonnaise costs $5. I was floored, but we're in a bad state. And so when people are focusing on surviving America, you know, they're not aware of what's going on until it happens.
But how do we get them to know when they go to the polls in March? I want the constituents of House District 131, where I grew up, which is the district that I'm running in. I can look at it and see how it has drastically changed. I can look at it because I remember how it was when I was growing up there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I can remember on Saturdays, Michelle, we would go over into South Park. there was a big department store called Kmart. You remember when Kmart used to be? Oh,
Yeah.
let me tell you. And they had the popcorn and everything. You could buy cotton candy and stuff in their little kiosk, grilled cheese sandwiches at the back where they had the little grill. It was great. It was an outing for us. And then when we finished, and sometimes they'd bring a carnival and set it up in the parking lot. You remember these things. Being in your neighborhood was somewhere fun to be. It was somewhere where you were proud to be. The bank was right across the street. South Park Bank was right across the street. And then you had the library right behind the bank. And it was a wonderful place to be. And slowly, 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 it started becoming more and more. Um, Businesses closed, businesses moved, things weren't kept up, things were boarded up. And, economics has a lot to do with it. But here's the thing: we're in a place now where we've actually got the opportunity in a lot of our areas. Did you grow up? You didn't grow up in the Humble area, did you?
No.
You moved to Humble. You weren't born there, but you got there as fast as you could, right? Okay, Texas. Anyway, but I grew up in this area, and we've got a unique opportunity in our area right now because of the close proximity to everything else in that's convenient in our town. Close proximity to the medical center. You've got close proximity to shopping. You've got close proximity to sporting events. Right there, adjacent to 131, which is like a 15-minute drive in either direction, even to get to NASA. Okay, come on. And development is coming back in. As in your area, out in Humble, where can you see that there is a place for improvement in that area to make people want to come there, raise their kids there, make the schools better, be participatory in what's going on in education in their children's schools? What can we do?
Well, first of all, in our area, we are facing flooding threats, and it's due to greed of the developers. And I know some of the developers are
Mhm.
not going to like my stance on this, but I disagree with houses being built in a floodplain.
Oh no.
So the Houston Chronicle
Yeah.
released an
Didn't we
article.
learn that with Harvey?
No, we haven't. Evidently, we haven't. The article that came out in the Chronicle today was that 65,000 or 65, yeah, six. I think it might have been
That's crazy.
6,500 houses were built in a floodplain. And if you're not familiar with the Spring Humble area, we have Cypress Creek, there's Lake Houston,
Yes.
and we have a lot of different waterways up there. And because people are moving to the suburbs because of regentrification
Yeah.
and the increase in rent
Yes.
and property values in the city of
Cities,
Houston,
yeah.
they're moving out to the suburbs, and it's spurring this growth. And I'm not against growth. However, I'm
Yeah, me neither.
against
Yeah.
greed. And what is happening is I've been living out by the airport, Intercontinental Airport, for over 20 years.
Right.
And the threat of flooding, of us dying due to flooding, is a real threat. I don't know if you all remember what happened with Kingwood during Harvey.
Oh, Michelle, do I remember? And let me tell you this: I was in the process of buying my house at that time. I was in the process of buying, and I was looking. And, I was actually looking at in the Humble Spring area because, that was before the housing prices just went through the roof. And I remember there was this one house that I saw on HAR, and I decided to drive out to it, got my sister in the car, and we drove out. And it was in this neighborhood. And let me tell you what was so cute about the neighborhood. It was nice. And the house had a pool in the back and all that good stuff. And we drove into the neighborhood, and we noticed that we were driving down. And wait. We were driving down into the area. I said, this is really nice how this goes down. And then it kind of ends up right by the bayou. Michelle, Harvey hit the next week. I drove over there. No, before we drove over there, because I didn't believe what I'd seen on TV. on TV. It showed someone going by in a canoe, the house that I was looking at, and he was pedaling like that, and he was all the way up to the second story window, and that was the house that I was looking at. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is going on? And that was Cypress Creek.
Yep. And that's what happened. So we are increasingly starting to flood in that area.
And why is that?
Because they are building
Construction.
houses
Yeah.
in these floodplains that were designed
To hold water. Yeah.
And now you have houses, and it says a lot about realtors. It says a lot about buyers.
Yeah.
They are not educated on the flooding, and
Yeah.
it's only going to get worse. These developers need to be stopped. We should not be building homes in floodplains.
Right.
And if you want to build new houses, tear down the old ones and build a new one.
Yeah. Yeah. And and that's one of those things, like over in that area that I was talking about, over in the South Park area in District 131, that's something that, and even over in the Sunnyside area, we never worried about flooding. At the very most, the water would get up. I lived in a cul-de-sac. Water would come up to the end of our driveway. And we thought that was something we'd go out and try to splash in it and play in it. But never, ever did water come. And until this day, water does not come into the houses over there. So there's something to be said about, however people may look up on certain areas and say, well, I wouldn't want to go there or whatever. We need to look at those kind of things for whatever needs to be said about the design. Something was right about what they were doing in designing those older neighborhoods.
They weren't building houses in natural floodplains.
That's
I'm
right.
a science. I like science.
Yeah.
And certain soil is designed to absorb
water. That's right.
And some of it is designed, like in Galveston. I can remember when I was teaching science, we looked at the different soil, how some soil was more
porous.
And some was not. And that soil that was not was meant to repel water, which was in your lakes, ponds, and those. But we're not using science. And here's the sad part about it. Texas has all this research.
Yeah.
Texas has it. The Texas Water Board, which I've been reading up on, they have this research.
Of course.
But what they won't do is go against their buddies and all their friends that are developers and say, no, for the community safety, we are not going to allow you all to build in a floodplain.
Yeah.
And then the federal government, they had a judge just rule that the houses that flooded in that federal floodplain. Now, here's the problem I have, because see, Greg Abbott, the governor, he really plays on this propaganda.
Right.
Texas allowed them to build where they knew it flood.
Where the Army Corps of Engineers had already come in and said, do not build here because it's inevitable.
Water.
That's right. They'd already determined that.
But you have Texas, and then you see him on these social media platforms saying, oh, now we're getting much closer. The state of Texas allowed that. The homeowners should have sued the state and the developers, because they knew that and they need to start suing these developers that are intentionally building houses in floodplains.
And Michelle, the thing about it is, we're not just talking about the loss of property here. With Harvey, there was a great loss of life due to people just being callous. Let me ask you this, Michelle, because this is something that, and I'm going to eat some of your. Michelle was tempting me. She came in here with this bag of pecans, and these are my favorite food. And she brought the bag and she went like this. She's teasing me with these pecans. I'm gonna get a few pecans before she leaves. But this is something that we're going to start hearing a lot about, and it all trickles down into the same place. And I know in your position as state representative for 121, you're going to hear a lot about this because it's affecting people greatly. In less than 6 days, people's affordable care insurance is going to skyrocket. It's estimated that we're going to have 20 million people who are not going to be able to afford insurance anymore. 20 million people, that's not a handful. That's not a handful.
And what they don't understand, we're an ecosystem. And what they don't understand is
we're codependent.
When those, so I don't, actuaries, they assess risk.
Right.
And anytime the risk goes up for insurance,
yeah,
everybody's insurance goes up.
Right.
And I don't think people really understand how it affects the insurance. It's going to affect us. Even though we're part of a group plan, our group plan is going to go up.
Because, Michelle, if you lose your insurance, by law, if you go into the hospital, do you still have to be treated?
Yep. They're going to stabilize you and put you out.
Okay. But you got to be treated. Okay. So, and you'll end up in the emergency room probably if you. Okay, so emergency room care is it's triage. So that's going to be the care that is going to demand the most money, because that is the care that many times it comes as a result of people not having preventative care. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got to, and I am imploring you right now, even right now, 6 days before, get on the phone, call your senators, call your Congress people, call your national leaders and tell them we can't afford to be without this. Whatever you guys have got to do, it may take the kind of backbone that is made out of a steel beam, but whatever needs to be done so that people don't lose this insurance, whatever you, and if no plan has been in the works, what is going on? If no plan has been in the works, someone got together, Michelle, let's just be clear. Someone got together back when that affordable health care plan was developed. A team got together and they came up with this plan. So in this last 6 months, has a team gotten together and come up with what's going to be the solution of this if we don't have this anymore?
No, the goal is to create.
What is the goal?
The goal, honestly, the goal is to create employees, people who are working for nothing. People don't remember in the during the Industrial Revolution and moving forward, that's your area, where children were working in factories.
Yep, they were
working in factories.
They were dying in factories in unsafe conditions. There were no unions, nothing that the government put forth to regulate so that there was safety in an age.
And that's what we're going back to. Anytime you have like Florida rolling back protections for minors to work, they are basically promoting child labor with no benefits. They don't want these corporations, and it's not all of them, some do care about their employees, but the corporations that are corrupt and don't want to take care of their employees and see them as some type of slave labor because you're paying slave wages.
That's right.
They don't want to pay for benefits. They don't want to have to. So, but then you have a sick
population,
working force. So what can you do? We can vote. We can vote people in that know what they're talking about, that are dealing with these type of issues. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the representative, the incumbent that's in my area, he does not care about anything.
Is he the part of the problem?
He is. Yeah. He is the problem. Anytime you have someone who's so concerned about gerrymandering, so concerned about defunding public education, and as a Black man makes the statement that Brown versus Board of Education, they got it wrong, was about parental rights.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so
No.
comfortable as a minority saying that, but then had the nerve to get in a picture for the Texas Black Caucus.
So let me say this. So basically what you're saying is that right now we have a situation of someone or entities of people who are willing to vote in their own and to align in their own against their own best interests.
Right, they're aligned. First of all, you shouldn't be in the seat. If you're not going to represent and protect the interests of the community,
Right.
then you should not be
Absolutely
in that seat. You need to be at home so you can make decisions for yourself that only affect you. But anytime, like, he is part of the problem in 127. 127 is a diverse set of constituents.
Tell us what that encompasses.
So we have, it's 45% Caucasian, 23% Black, 22% Latino, 6% Asian, and 3% other.
And what part of town is that? Tell me where that is.
Part of Spring.
Okay.
45 going east.
Correct. On the other side.
Yes, going towards the airport. 1960 going to Atascocita.
Okay.
Kingwood. So we're all of Kingwood.
Okay.
All of Humble.
Okay.
Partial Atascocita and partial Spring.
Okay, got you. And a lot of that has changed now. Now, 25 years ago, Michelle, it was much more homogenous out there in that area.
Absolutely. We had Dan Huberty.
Yeah.
I'm only the second Democrat to run in 128 in 12 years.
Wow.
That's it.
But the demographics have changed so much that you probably are more reflective of what 128 is really looking like now.
Yeah, 127 looks more is a diverse population of people who want something different. I've been talking to even on social media, Humble ISD.
That's what I was getting ready to ask you next about that.
Humble ISD is struggling. They have a failing school. They've had issues in the past with their superintendent.
Right.
I don't know the ins and outs of it, but
it serves Humble ISD serves how many people?
I want to say 40,000 children because
that's a lot of kids.
ISD is about 33.
Okay.
So it's about 40,000 kids, but they are now being forced by the state to use Lone Star governors. And every time somebody says Lone Star governors, I laugh. I said, do you know a man who has a GED? They can't even find his high school diploma. Created this, and you have school boards that are.
What do you mean they can't find his high school diploma?
They cannot. I reached out to someone in Dallas, and she said that. I said he has a high school diploma. She said he doesn't even have that. She said we can't.
And tell me who this person. You don't want to mention this person's name?
No, I do not. If you go look up the author of the Lone Star Governors,
I'm going to look right now.
Find out who that person is.
Okay.
So I'm not following someone who has never taught or been in public education, someone who does not have an advanced degree. He does not even have the same amount of education or experience that I have. And you have school boards following this foolishness. And Mike Morath, the commissioner of education, I'm going to keep hanging this on him. That's his friend. His friend has no education. And you have him in here following something that doesn't make sense.
Okay, you mean AJ Crabill?
Yep.
Okay. The founder and key trainer for the Texas Education Agency's Lone Star Governance Initiative focused on improving school board effectiveness for student outcomes is AJ Crabill, who developed and leads this unique continuous improvement model for Texas school boards.
There are students that are graduating from high school that have more education than he does. Some of these children are graduating with associate's degrees. He has nothing.
Well, is it that he has nothing, or we can't put our hands on
he has nothing except for a GED. they cannot find the high school that he graduated from, which leads them to believe that he has a GED. High school was bad enough, but you have someone developing something that is really not educationally sound because it doesn't come from someone who has formerly been, yep, all of the school districts that are taking over Mike Morath is making them drink the Lone Star governance Kool-Aid.
See, and that's what I mean. This is what I mean, guys, when I'm saying this. And I'm making sure that I'm looking into the right camera now. When someone or anyone is touting being a proud member of TEA, or that I've been a part of TEA, I'm telling you right now, I'm a teacher, and TEA okays and writes our STAR test. Okay. And I'm a teacher who absolutely have said that STAR test, I don't know, you know, do people just feel like you have to spend a whole lot of money on writers of these tests to get it right? I believe that STAR test needs to be made up. The people who develop it needs to be made up of a cohort of teachers, high school level, if it's high school level material they're working on, um, high school students, high school counselors who can bring in that psychosocial element that needs to be in there, and parents. Why can't they all get together and develop those tests that are being done? Because, and number one, students need to be in on it, especially for the history test. Okay, because I've seen history tests that are constructed. It's not made to measure whether or not a student is able to tell you the history of the United States. I can sit with some of my students, Michelle, and ask them right here, okay, tell me what happened from the beginning all the way up until the part that I teach, right? And they can lay it out to me. They know the information. But if you sit and you decide to print that out in a way that's structured in the way that Old English is written, almost like it's written in, the way, even though they've translated to English in the Bible, things are written in a way that you got to go over it as an adult 3 or 4 times to see if you are understanding it right. Is the goal of that to know whether or not the students know the information, or is the goal of doing that to make sure that student is not successful because of the way that it's written? You understand where I'm going with this? If your goal is to make sure that this student is knowledgeable about the history of the United States, allow them to be able to present that to them in a way where they can tell you and show you that they know
They don't want to.
That's my point.
That's my point. We've gotten to the point where they do not want to educate children, especially in the public school system, because I don't know who told these people that I don't have to pay taxes because my child goes to private school. Well, let me go ahead and insert myself, the person who pays taxes, and I don't have a child in any school, not one. And I know several people who don't have children. It's an ignorant thought process, because if everybody pulls their money out, you don't pay enough. You don't pay $10,000 in taxes to get $10,000 to pay for religious education in a private school. You don't even pay that much.
Right.
On my Facebook page, I put out the new tax brackets and percentages for tax brackets. If you make less than $50,000, you pay $12,000 in tax. And if you got children, you're probably paying zero.
Yeah.
Your tax burden is zero. So at the end of the day, it's an ignorant thought process. The Texas Constitution and the U.S. Constitution states that it is our duty as citizens to support public education. Yes. And you don't get to get a cop out. I don't care if your children are in private school. I don't have any,
Yes.
and I'm still paying.
That's right. I don't have any either, and I'm still paying. Okay. And now she's got a son. He's out of school. He's grown, but I don't have any kids, and I've been paying since I've been working, and I never complained about it.
Exactly.
Because Michelle, state very clearly to people who are listening now to, and it sounds very good that the governor is keeping throwing this up, saying, I'm trying to eliminate property taxes. Michelle, where do, how do we get the money for public schools in Texas? How do we get it? Where does it come from?
It's not coming from the state of Texas, because the state, and people don't understand.
But it comes from where?
It comes from
property taxes.
But
thank you.
Your larger school districts are paying their teacher salaries, everything else, with minimum help from the state.
Yes.
See, Governor Abbott is not telling you all that. DISD, Dallas ISD, Houston ISD, Cy-Fair ISD, Aldine ISD, these school districts are supporting themselves with minimum amount of money from the state. HISD, Houston ISD, collects $2.2 billion, and probably less than that now, since they've been chopping property taxes, $2 billion in property taxes. The state only gives Houston ISD $400 million. So in order for the state to absorb all of this, and it's a lie.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, it is a lie that is coming out of his mouth. Even Paul Bettencourt, the state senator, who I don't agree with on anything, he said we're talking about real dollars.
Yeah.
This is not monopoly money.
Right.
If the state was to replace the budgets as they are set for all of the school districts in the state of Texas, it's going to wipe out the state's budget.
Right.
That's what I'm telling you all. Do not listen to the governor and the rest of these people out here talking about eliminate property taxes.
Yeah.
First of all, you can't. Even he said, Bettencourt, and you can find the interview, in order to do that, you would have to increase the sales tax to 15%.
Right.
We're already almost at 10.
Yeah.
So either way, you're gonna pay.
And Michelle, here's the thing about it. 90%, and I am being generous with that, because I believe it was like 89.6, but 90% of the people in this country, whether they're billionaires now or not, matriculated through a public school.
Yep.
So your kids may not be going to public school, but a whole lot of the people that make this country run matriculated through a public school. If you look to your left or to your right, you cannot swing a wet newspaper and not hit at least 10 to 15 people who came all the way up through the public school system. So there's some good, a lot of good, a whole lot of good that's coming through public schools. Don't be dismayed with that. Don't let propaganda tell you that nothing good is coming out of public schools anymore, because that's offensive to me, because I'm a public school teacher and I know what's sitting in my classroom every day. There's a lot of good that will be coming out of public schools and contributing to this society too. So don't be dismayed by that. And you don't ever want a situation where there are people at the top that are discounting the importance of education. Education, if nothing else, is going to teach you to be a critical thinker. It's going to teach you to question your circumstances and to do what you've got to do to make your circumstances better, and not just accept what someone says it's okay for you to have.
Yeah, and don't let them pit you against your neighbors.
Yes.
And I'm not going to say our public school systems do not need
perfect.
work.
Yeah.
And we do. Mm-hmm. And it's not because it's not teachers. Teachers don't make laws.
Right.
If we made laws, it would be a lot better. we would have the things that we need for our classrooms and
Yes.
to effectively teach our students.
Yes.
I wouldn't be running for state representative. It's not, I never wanted to be a politician, and I'm not. I'm an advocate. I advocate
Yes.
for my students.
Yes.
I advocate for people. But at the end of the day, because they are taking the laws and turning them against
Manipulating them,
parents, teachers,
students,
communities, and trying to destroy our communities. Because make no mistake, when a school closes, it hurts the community.
Yes,
Where
it does.
it hurts it. And charter schools don't make it better, because charter schools pull kids out of a community. And I know parents are only looking for the best options for their children, but I promise you, if you elect more teachers,
Yeah,
we will have a better school system.
and Michelle, here's the thing. With a charter school, you know, charter schools, there are, if charter schools could be placed in a lane where they only are meeting the needs of the students that public schools are not able to meet the needs of. Students who may be going to the county, because of criminal activity or something like that. If charter schools were placed in that lane where they were trying to meet the needs only of students that public schools could not, or not able, or are not equipped or trained to meet the needs of, I'm okay with that. But that's not what
But that's
charter
what
schools.
that's what they were designed for.
Yes,
Charter schools were supposed to not supplant
right, public schools.
It was supposed to supplement
That's
and support where we did not have the services.
That's right.
And that's where it needs to go back to. Also, charter schools need to be held to the same standards
Bingo.
as public education.
That's what I was getting ready to say, because let's be clear. A charter school is a private entity run by private companies.
Yep.
Michelle, if we wanted to open Crystal and Michelle's charter school, and we said we only wanted to take young men and women who were 5 feet 6 inches tall or taller, they had to have dark colored eyes. They had to be, no one could be over 150 pounds, and they had to live in, come from families who only made over $125,000 a year. They had to be Christian. Think about this. In theory, can charter schools choose who they want to accept?
They can.
That's the problem. Holding them to the exact same accountability and guidelines that public schools are held to. That's off the table with charter schools because they're private entities. And Michelle, for extracurricular activities at Crystal and Michelle's charter school, we only want to have music. There will be no sports. We'll only have math club as after school activities. And we'll only have students who are able to play chess and win on a state level who'll be able to attend. Boom. And you know what? We want to have schools on Saturday and half the day on Sunday too. We can do that, can't we?
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem, guys. That's the problem. If you are not holding these schools to the same accountability as public schools, there's an issue there. And there is an open door for discrimination on a lot of levels.
It is. And I for me, one of my solutions, and I have been looking and reading up on teacher-powered schools. Yes. I have been trying to get to their conferences every summer. I can't make it because we have our union representative assembly every summer at the same time. But teacher power schools, I would like to see those in Texas. We need to put the focus back on learning, and we need to put teachers in the driver's seat. Yes. Because the research says that teachers are the most important factor when you're educating children.
Yes.
And we need to let teachers take the helm. And this is not a principal versus teacher.
No.
It's a structure where teachers have more autonomy If you can read about teacher powered schools, go to www.teacherpowered.org. And some schools do have a principal, but it's governed not by the principal. It's governed by a group of teachers that are designated to lead the school. Also, it's a community-based model.
And the principal's basically facilitating.
Yeah, and we need more schools that engage the community, and it's not something where the parents are coming in taking over the school, where the school is working with the parents and the community, because the school is a center in the community. We need to go back to those models.
Yes.
And teachers need to have more autonomy when it comes to budget, when it comes to curriculum, when it comes to training, because the state of Texas has opted not to train its teacher, which goes against all research-based practices. And it also has opted into telling teachers how to teach, which you can't do that to me, because none of you all can out teach me. When you learn how to teach grades 1 through 9, algebra 1, then we can talk about stuff. And also I've taught reading, and I can teach kids how to read. And I've taught science. So when you get that type of resume, then we can talk. But at the end of the day, you cannot tell me how to teach math because you don't know how to teach math.
Right. And Michelle, we're going to go ahead and close out in a minute, but we're going to be having a lot of talks like this because you need to hear some of this from a teacher's mouth. You got to hear it from a teacher's mouth. Michelle has worn more than one hat. She's worn hats, and she's wearing the hat now of a union leader and a classroom teacher and a community advocate, okay, and a parent, okay. So she's worn a lot of hats over the years. I'm wearing the hat of a community advocate and a classroom teacher. And I can tell you this, we are going to see collectively, she and I and other teachers are going to see some things that the public never sees.
Correct.
And that's why we can tell you that if you are standing on the fact that you are an education person and you haven't seen or been into a classroom in the last 20 years, that's an issue because it's not the same classroom. Things have changed. Things are changing real time. And you need to be a part of that. And I told Michelle this. I said, even when I'm elected as state representative for District 131, I think that I'll do myself a disservice if I don't go back into my school and sub at least a few times that semester when I'm not in session, because that gives me a real-time touch point of exactly what's going on. And I've seen schools, depending on the dynamics that are happening in the district, I've seen the climate of schools change within a 3-week period. That can happen. Different things can happen. And when you've got teachers who decide to stay in the classroom 26 years, 27 years, 17 years, 15 years, that means they're committed to the cause. That means they've seen everything that can happen in that classroom and they're committed to the cause. And they want to fight to make sure that other teachers are recognized and other teachers' ideas and concepts and professionalism is recognized in our state. And when things are at the table, when decisions are being made, nothing is going to be more powerful than having a teacher at the table where those decisions are being made. But I could talk all day, Michelle. But I want to thank Michelle so much again for coming in and setting up my podcast microphone and camera so that she says that now I look official. And she says, Crystal, when do you ever see a whole lot of classroom lighting in a podcast? She said, your podcast looks like a classroom. I'm sorry, Michelle, but now you got me straight. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in to listen. We didn't really rant, did we?
No.
We didn't really rant, but we kind of told it like it was. So thank you for tuning in to allow us to tell it like it is. And Stevie, We know that you've been there. Stevie says that folks don't need to be in other folks' business. That's absolutely right, Stevie. We agree with that. We need to stay in our lane as teachers, let people raise their children and educate their children and indoctrinate their children into whatever their religions are in whatever way they want. We need to stay out of it because it's not our business. But if we just keep those things, if we teach the best way that we can, the best way that we know how, and keep religion out of the classroom, we'll be a great society.
Yep.
Last thoughts, Michelle.
If you want to support my campaign, you can go to www.michelleforstaterep.com. Also, I am hosting a meet and greet for District 127. So if you know anyone that lives in the Spring, Humble, Atascocita, Huffman area, tell them to go to michelleforstaterep.com and get on my volunteer list.
Yes.
And I'm setting up my email list as we
Are y'all gonna be block walking?
We will be doing some block walking. We're actually going to start with car rider lines at schools, those types of things. I finally finished my push card. I know I should have those.
I just finished mine this weekend too. Don't feel bad.
So we'll be out in the community. I don't have a primary opponent, so I am the candidate, Democratic candidate for District 127. I will be on the primary ballot as well as the general election ballot. We need for Democrats to come out during the primary because we need you to raise your hand and say, I'm a Democrat.
Yes.
I definitely need it. Like I said, I'm the only the second Democratic candidate that has run in District 127, and we are coming for that seat. We're going to flip it from red to blue. And as Governor Abbott said, dark blue.
Yes. And if you believe, regardless of how you voted in the past, it's not about aligning yourself. It's about doing the right thing for you and your community, regardless of of what party you're affiliated with. If you believe in public schools and the things that public schools have brought to this country since Horace Mann introduced that concept back in the 1800s, you need to support Michelle and public school teachers at this point. We are under attack. That's why so many teachers, I think, have thrown their hat in the ring. When we see the direction that this particular administration is trying to guide public education in, it's chilling. I don't want to look in my rearview mirror and say, I remember when schools used to be great to go to. I remember when it used to be communities used to be in schools. I remember Friday Night Lights.
Yep.
We don't want to be in that kind of position again. But I wanted to bring Michelle in here because you people who are out there in 127, don't stay away from the polls, Michelle. And when is the last day that people can register to vote out there? Because you guys, if you're not there, you can still pick up a voter registration card from your post office, fill it out, and drop it in the mail yourself, and make sure that you are registered to vote in that March 3rd primary. Okay. Even though she is not going to have an opponent on that, you need to get in the habit of voting in every election.
We need real numbers. We need Democrats to vote in the primary. I need you all to show up on March 3rd to say, I'm a Democrat.
I'm supporting you. Yes.
Yes. So I need to know that you're out there because we haven't had any representation in 12 years. Yeah. I'm only the second one. So we need you to come say, hey, I'm a Democrat. I'm supporting you. I'm going to support you in the primary. And I'm going to support you in the general election. Don't be a person that only votes in presidential elections.
Right.
We need you all to come out and vote.
Because if you haven't seen it already, Michelle, you and I know that we probably thought we would not see it in our lifetime, but to see a state entity come in and completely wreck the fourth largest school district in the country, it is earth shattering to see that happen. To see schools that we've known to be historic schools throughout the life of HISD to now be reduced to sort of like a little assembly line type
It's an
situation.
empty vessel.
Yeah,
Nothing is happening in HISD that's good. And if
yeah,
you all think, because I keep seeing people, oh, I would rather the state come take over. You don't.
no,
You don't want that. Like I was telling teachers, they didn't want it. I said, you don't want the state in your business. First of all, it's a degradation of democracy. Our schools are run by local, and then you got Governor Abbott running around here, no pun intended, saying that, oh, we run schools better than the other guy. You can't
mm-mm,
run schools when Mike Miles has spent over $500 million in the last 6 months on attorney's fees. That's
right,
for one law firm.
yeah,
So he's bleeding HISD dry, your taxpayer money, and that's what's going to come to all of these other school districts
yeah,
because Morath, the commissioner of education, Mike Morath, does not care, and neither does the governor. So please do not say that you want the state to come and take over.
no.
We can make our schools better. I promise you.
We need more parents in the schools. We need more parents in the PTO meetings, in the PTA meetings, in parent organizations that support schools and support teachers. If we could get the parents in there to help those teachers out in the ways that they can, how much stronger would those schools be?
And it's not even parents. Everybody's a stakeholder. The parents are just one stakeholder.
Yeah.
It's the school district, the parents, and the community. The community has effectively turned its back on the school district, these businesses. They want to feed off the school district, such as Houston ISD,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't want to support it. The Greater Houston Partnership is the greatest disappointment when it comes to Houston ISD. They supported this takeover and they're going to pay the price for it. They want a bond so their companies can get contracts,
Right.
but you don't want to support real education.
Yeah.
Mr. Rick Campo, chairman of the Port of Houston,
Yeah.
member of the Greater Houston Partnership, we need businesses to partner with public education, i.e., public educators,
Right.
for real education. That's why you see me show up every school board meeting taking my victory lap,
Right.
because it's a sham of education that's being provided to these schools in Houston ISD, and they're trying to push this skim milk, for lack of a better term, that's not going to educate our children. And it irritates me to have the business community who wants a bond pass but don't want to support public educators and want to support the status quo, which is denying these students a free and appropriate education.
And Michelle just said a mouthful. She said a mouthful. But at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, we don't want to bridle the people who are willing to sit here and tell the truth about what's going on. If we don't step in right now, public education is going to be a thing of the past. Okay, and that's not what we want. We know that it's not what we want. So we need for you to show up, and we need for you to show up and support our classroom teachers, support the people who are in there with those students making those decisions, put teachers at the table in the state House of Representatives so that every decision they make, those students are being looked out for, every decision that they make. If you would like to support me, my name is Crystal Dillard. This is my Crystal Loves Texas podcast. And Michelle's going to be back on here again because as things are changing real time and they're coming up with different stuff that they do, every other week or month in the that has to do with education in Texas. We're gonna give you the real skinny on it.
Yep.
Okay, it may not be what you want to hear, but we're gonna give you the real skinny on it, just like Michelle came in and did about those star test scores. But y'all remember that. but if you would like to support me, please go to Crystal Dillard for the numeral 4 Texas.com. You can register to endorse my campaign. You can register to walk with us when we do block walks. You can register to volunteer. All of those good things that have to do with the campaign, because there's a lot of legwork that goes into it. And please, you don't have to be from District 131. You don't have to be from District 127 to go in and donate to our campaigns. Guys, these are not cheap. It's not cheap to get this stuff done. It's not. And we want to make sure that we present what we're doing in the best way possible. You can donate to my to me on my webpage through Act Blue. You can donate to me through my GoFundMe account that's set up especially for campaigns, with all the I's dotted and all the T's crossed, especially for campaigns. But you don't have to be from our districts to go in and support us. Okay. You can just say, hey, there's 2 teachers there that I know their heart is in the right place. They're trying to get it done for us and for our students, and I want to support them. I'm asking you to do that. Please do that. Don't hesitate to do that. And more than anything, share this podcast, share it with your friends, share it with your neighbors, share it with your families, because our campaigns are basically grassroots. Okay. We don't have, big corporations backing us. We don't. We're teachers who have a heart for what we're doing, and we have a real concern for what's going on right now in public education because it's scaring us. Okay. And we don't want to see the bottom fall out of public education as we know it. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you again for tuning in today. And this was just like an improv.
Yep.
This was an improv. We decided we were going to go live because Michelle was coming down to help me get my little podcast right. So hopefully we're going to listen to this afterwards, and it doesn't sound like we are talking through a tunnel anymore, like Michelle said we were. But but guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will make sure that we keep you posted and keep you abreast of what's going on. And as we say, Michelle, all the time on the Crystal Loves podcast, we can do it. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. We're trying to leave, but it may not want us to. So guys, we may have to stay.